The Rams are 2-0 after beating the Titans 33-19. We've got 10 big takeaways and the latest on Ahkello Witherspoon's injury. Also, should Blake Corum be getting more snaps? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your 2-0 Los Angeles Rams. If you're new to the channel, by the way, lots of new viewers, lots of new listeners lately. Subscribe to Locked On Rams YouTube channel, getting close to 20,000 subscribers. If you're a podcast listener, go check us out on the video. If you watch the video, subscribe to the podcast as well. If you want to support every single episode, hit the like button, drop a comment down below. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 7 LA. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, it's Victory Monday. We've got our big takeaways. We're going to talk about the Ahkello Witherspoon injury, what the Rams will do. Also, Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. Is it going to be a split running backfield? We'll talk a little bit about that. No title sponsor, so let's get right into it, Travis. Okay, so the Rams, they go into Tennessee, kind of play with their food a little bit, but still end up with a pretty convincing 33-19 win. And just kind of like big picture zooming out take on this game for me is this proved to me that the Rams are a great team because this is the NFL. You saw the Ravens yesterday, the Browns hanging in there with the Ravens. Like bad teams hang in there with good teams at home. Like that's what happens. But it's the teams that don't try to force the action and try to do too much that end up losing to teams like that. The Rams, they trailed like late in the third quarter. You had the Stafford interception that led to the Cam Ward great touchdown to Iomayer late in that one, but they still end up winning convincingly. And that to me shows the Rams are good teams. They can be really good teams. They can be bad teams. They can be everyone in between. They're really good about this win.
Well, first of all, I want to give you a lot of credit for getting Iomayer correct, where Terry Bradshaw had 47 tries at it and couldn't get it. So good for you for being able to.
I was watching like Stanford games this last weekend just to make sure. You know what I mean? Like, jeez.
Yeah, it's an unusual one, but you nailed it. That was a great play by the Titans, by the way. I agree with you. I thought that the big takeaway for me, Doug, was we got our first pretty good glimpse of how good this team can be. They got to get a lot better in some of these things, and they got to clean up some things. Maybe that first half wasn't the best half of football we've seen from them in the Sean McVay era, but in the second half, you got a really good glimpse of how dangerous this team can be. You saw what the defense could do getting after a quarterback who's trying to chase some points. You saw what Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams can do when they're on the same page. Puka Nacua continues to be an impactful player. Blake Corum got introduced to this offense in a meaningful way. I think you can make the argument, Doug, maybe for the first time ever. And you saw some of the depth on their defense that even with Ahkello Witherspoon leaving the game with an injury, that they had some depth to come in and deal with that. I thought it was an incredibly positive day. I agree with you. This is the NFL, that you don't get a ton of blowouts, even against teams that might not win a bunch of games. And I don't know how many times the Tennessee Titans are going to win this season. Probably not a ton, but I don't think they're going to get blown out a ton either. And the Rams blew them out in the second half. It was a very satisfying Sunday afternoon.
No doubt about it. And that's to me what I was thinking too. I mean, I was my bold prediction heading to the season was they could have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. And the reason why I felt that way is I felt like this team has a chance to be a really, really good balanced team. And you saw what the offense was capable of after halftime. And yes, they do need to fix this first quarter issue where you go out there and you don't put up a ton of points and you kind of just let the game come to you a little bit. I would like to see them force the action a little bit, get a little more production early in games so they don't have to kind of fight their way back or have to kind of go back and forth with teams, because I think they're talented enough to build leads on even good teams. But I look at this game in two parts. Before the Matthew Stafford interception, after the Matthew Stafford interception. Because after the Matthew Stafford interception, he was absolutely locked in. And in the second half, the final 30 minutes of the game, the Rams outscored the Titans 23-6. They put up 174 yards in the first half, 265 total yards in the second half, 439 total yards. That was their most since week 14 last year when they had 457 against the Bills. So you saw what a prolific-ish passing offense can look like, along with a really good rushing attack as well. By the way, how about that block? How about Jordan Whittington getting down the field and doing that nice block for Puka Nacua? Almost remind me a couple of years back when Robert Woods had that big run on 3rd and 33 and he rushed it in. It's like what makes Puka so special now, I think more than ever, is he's got Devontae and can take care of business on the outside. You have Puka that can line up in the slot, can do some different creative things with him, and he's that much more dangerous.
Yeah, I thought it's funny you say that, Doug. I thought the same thing. That play reminded me a lot of the Robert Woods against the Giants 3rd and 33 touchdown play. I saw the same thing that you did. I want to go back to the Stafford interception that you mentioned because there's a couple of things in that. Number one, it was a bad play by Stafford. He talked about it afterward. It was a bad throw. It's the one thing you can't do right there. And okay, fine, he made a mistake, but this is one of the things that I keep going back to. Let's go back the last couple of years when this idea that, well, Matthew Stafford may retire. Matthew Stafford may want to go somewhere else. He wants more money. He may want to trade, et cetera, et cetera. And this idea that, well, you're going to have to move on from him at some point. So maybe sooner than later is the better option. It's not. Look, he threw a terrible pass and he came back and he lit him up in the second half. And this is what a veteran dynamic quarterback does. It's like, it's a mistake. You keep going. Like, look around the rest of the league. Look at some of these other guys. When they make a bad play, it leads to another bad play and another bad play and another bad play. That's not, he made one bad play and then he fixed it. And then he went out there and looked like Matthew Stafford all again. That's number one. Number two, that interception, I thought, it set up the one touchdown they gave up yesterday. The defense still has not given up a touchdown this season where the other guy drove the length of the field. Matthew Stafford gave them a short field. They made a crazy play to Io Manor, like you mentioned, and the defense still continues to be incredibly resilient and not giving up a ton of touchdowns. Other than the Philadelphia Eagles playoff game, they haven't given up a touchdown in something like 6 games. It is an amazing run for that defense. And even when your quarterback kind of put your back against the wall the way that Stafford did in the second quarter there, they don't sweat it. They just keep moving forward. And I think that's the sign of a very good team.
Absolutely. And I thought something similar as well. It'd be better if we argue a little more for this show. But I do think that the defense, and maybe you can debate me on this, I think that we'll look back at the end of the season and the defense will be this team's calling card. This team will hang its hat on its defense. And the reason why I believe that is because of this front seven that doesn't even, we're not even talking about Jared Verse or Kobe Turner that much. We're talking about Byron Young. And now Byron Young has emerged to a point where it's like, wow, like how many dudes do we actually have on that front? And you just look at how they were able to keep that Titans offense at bay. They gave 19 points. And you say, okay, 19 points against the Titans, rookie quarterback. Don't feel great about that. But you got to put some context on that, right? 4 were field goals. 2 of those field goals were 50-plus yard field goals, which like in the NFL today is like kind of like a chip shot with the way these guys are hitting Aubrey going crazy yesterday. You guys got to be a soccer player before an NFL kicker. But 56-yard drive that the Titans started on their own 44-yard line, and the only time they scored was after that Matthew Stafford interception that he would love to have back. So I love the way Chris Shula is playing this defense. It's the style, okay, you're going to eventually make a mistake. You're going to eventually not be able to execute. They finished with 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. And the fumble recovery played a big part in this game. That's the second consecutive week that's happened. So, yes, we're going to get into the Ahkello Witherspoon injury, and that's certainly a factor. But you have to feel really, really good about just the fact that this team on both sides of the ball and special teams as well, they look like a complete unit.
I like you said, it would probably be better if we disagreed about some of this stuff along the way, but I agree with you.
Apple Pans fries then. Apple Pans fries.
Well, there you go. I like Apple Pans fries. You just need a little ketchup and a lot of salt. That's fine. But look, here's why I think that maybe the Rams won't be a defensive first team, even though I think it's probably more like Sean McVay. I don't want to say won't allow it because Sean McVay wants to win, and that's what he's about. He's about winning football games. But Sean McVay likes offense. Sean McVay likes to score. Sean McVay likes to show off. And I mean that in a good way, not in any sort of self-grandiose, self-aggrandizing way. He is an offensive guy, and his football team probably wants to reflect that. And so he's going to do everything he can. I thought that they were really trying to force the ball to Davante Adams early in that game. I thought when the offense got a little more balanced in the second half, Adams was far more effective in that role than it was where they were just kind of looking at him seemingly every single play. But you're right. I think that by the time we get to November and December, when you really start to see what these teams are about, this is going to be a defensive football team. That front is so good. And, it's been a couple of games, and we'll see what Nate Landman does, but it feels like he's brought an element to this team that wasn't there before. This feels like a team that is very complete. If you need to win a game 17-14, you can. If you need to score 30 points, you can. If you need to hit a long kick, you can. It just feels like they've got all their bases covered. I
agree. I mean, I don't mean this as really like, oh, this offense is falling off. I just think that, look, my team's 2-0. I think they're going to be the greatest team in the history of the NFL, right? I think that on both sides of the ball, they have a chance to be really special. And you mentioned Davante Adams. I thought it was cool after the game that Sean McVay essentially admitted and Davante Adams said that they were trying to get him a touchdown, that they were trying to give it, like a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, like the best plays in the right situation. Like that just shows that Sean McVay is like the perfect coach for players that have already made themselves in this league. Like he understands, like, dude, like we don't treat all these guys equally. We don't. Like I'm not treating Davante Adams like I treat Tutu Atwell, right?
What he understands is, and this word is usually associated in a negative way, and I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean it in the most literal definition of the word. He understands ego. He understands that these superstar players have egos. He understands that he understands what's important to them. And scoring touchdowns is important. Getting some shine is important. Sacks are important. That's why he challenged that play at the end of the game. That clearly was a completion by Cam Ward, which, by the way, really nice play by him. He's pretty good. I was very impressed by Cam Ward. We won't spend a ton of time on that, but I was really impressed by what I saw. But that was hey, look, I want these guys to know that I'm here for them. I want these guys to know that I'm going to fight for not just their wins and their money, but I'm going to fight for their stats. I'm going to fight for those things that they care about. And that makes a huge difference, that those guys believe in the culture of the Rams. They believe in the culture of Sean McVay. And it's just one of the many, many things that make him what I think is, if he's not the best coach in the league, he's not past number 2.
Yeah, like his EQ, is just off the charts, and I totally agree with that. And that's why you're going to always continue to see great players want to play for him. By the way, after the game, in his post-game presser, Davante Adams was talking about the move that he did to get open on that play. It was a big play. It was a 3rd and 5. They really iced the games for the Rams in that situation. He was like, I just gave him a little, Like, what is that? How do you write that as a reporter? Davante gave him a
H.
He just made it. Like, okay, you kind of get, it's like, it was a little star. So
the best part is when he goes, I gave him a little hint, exactly what he means. That's true. What's so good about
he deserves credit, man. He's like a Mark Twain out here, man. I love it. But all right, coming up next, we've got more big takeaways from the Rams' Week 2 win over the Titans. Also, the latest on Ahkello Witherspoon's injury. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
This episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. We're making decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and the fastest way to get in on the action. How easy is this, right? Pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, and all in about less than 60 seconds, right? PrizePicks this weekend for me, it worked out. Played my Rams again. Matthew Stafford, over 238.5 yards passing, more than, right? Cam Ward, less than 199 yards passing. That's what it is. You can stay in all season long. It's quick, it's easy, and it's my favorite way to follow along with all of the football. Find your favorite players, find your favorite teams, more or less. It really is that simple. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it is good to be right.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a big shout out to those every listeners out there watching, listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams, making this the #1 daily Rams podcast. So if you're new to the show, join the Every Listeners Club. That's where you watch or listen or do both to every single episode we drop, and then you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. All right, Travis, here in our second segment, got to talk about some of the bad news, and that was the injury to Ahkello Witherspoon. Sean McVay confirmed it after the game. Broken clavicle, no timeline for return. It is expected to be a lengthy absence for him. And look, this definitely is a blow. Like, don't kid yourself. This is a guy that performed very well against the Vikings and the Eagles last year in the playoffs. He performed very well against Nico Collins in their week 1 win. And thankfully, they do have some depth. And I will go back to what Sean McVay said before the season, and that is that they have 4 starting cornerbacks. And I think that tells you kind of what their plan is moving forward, that I don't expect them to go out there, sign a free agent or anything like that. You got Darius Williams, you got Kobe Durant, you've got Emmanuel Forbes. Actually did a really nice job on that touchdown to Ayo Mazur, Boehner. How do you? Okay, I did.
You turned into Terry Bradshaw on me again.
Okay, I'll just mess up. Okay, but he did a good job. It was a great throw, right? And then you got Quentin Lake, who kind of lines up in the slot. It's kind of like a pseudo corner at times. You got Josh Wallace. So I don't expect him to go out there and be aggressive, especially considering the money they're paying Darius Williams. But the first thing is, it is a blow to the Rams secondary.
Yeah, Witherspoon has been a really good player for the Rams the last couple of years, and what he is, he's a really good player at a really good price too. Not that it matters at this point in the season because you're kind of, you're set up with what you're done with your cap and everything else. But he was, a lot of bang for your buck at that spot. And the everydayers have heard me say this before. I think one of the things that coaches really like with a player like Ahkello Witherspoon is, I know what I'm going to get. Right. That it doesn't have to be a triple pluses across the board. Just do what you're supposed to do, be where you're supposed to be, understand the assignment, and compete on each and every snap. And I think that was something he was very, very good at. They're going to miss him. Now, this is life in the NFL. You're going to lose guys. You're going to lose important guys. Every single team in the league is going to have to deal with something like this at some point in the season. Hopefully, you don't have to deal with more than the average amount. They've got guys. We'll see how it shakes out. I'm a little bit short of where you are, Dougie, because I think they would make a move if they needed to. I think that they'll play with this for a while. We'll see. They're going to get tested big time in Philadelphia coming up in 6 days. You get A.J. Brown, you get Devontae Smith. We'll see if Dallas Goedert. I mean, you got a bunch of guys that are going to be back, and they'll be tested. And if it doesn't look great, maybe they'll go into the market and see what else is out there. But this is why, you and I we joke about this in the preseason where they play all these guys and we kind of like, oh my gosh, what are we even looking at here? But there's always 1 or 2 guys that play in those games that end up being a part of what they do during the regular season. And maybe this is an opportunity for one of those guys in the secondary.
Yeah, certainly. I think as far as kind of what I was saying, as far as not going out and signing one, I just don't, for me, it's go big or go internal, right? Like, I don't like a Stephon Gilmore or Asante Samuel Jr., Emmanuel Mosley, Eli Apple, James Bradbury, guys like that. They don't move the needle for this team. I think if they were to go big, I think you hit on the nail. That's kind of what I was saying on the squad show is, hey, I'm not impressed with Arch Manning getting booed when the Longhorns are playing UTEP. I'm not very impressed by some of these college quarterbacks to stash that extra draft pick. So if there was a major upgrade that they could make at that position, especially with how this team looks, then I would say absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, and look, the Rams they've made it very clear that they'll do that, and we'll see how they use that extra draft pick. And not, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but when you see Atlanta win a game last night against Minnesota. And, Atlanta looks like they may be a halfway decent team. That may be a middle of the pack pick, maybe even a little bit higher than that. And maybe flip it now before while you still can. Maybe flip it for that defensive player. Maybe flip it for, another offensive weapon. We'll see what it is. But the Rams are not one of those teams. They never do it. They always do it. They're constantly, trying to make their team better, and they're willing to pay the going rate if that's what it is. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe it's a defensive back. Maybe it's not. But don't sleep on them, because if they can smell it, if they think they got a chance to win another Super Bowl, they'll go for it.
Oh, for sure. And I think that if this team was out to prove to Les Snead in the front office that this is a team worth betting on and worth possibly going back to the FM picks type of mindset, they've proven that in the first couple of weeks that the upside certainly is there. Going back to Darius Williams, though, don't you think that this is a really good opportunity for him, considering that, hey, now that Kello out, he's essentially the veteran now. Like, not only is he expected to come in and perform, he did have a nice pass breakup yesterday. I think, too, the fact that he kind of has this like extra role on top of just going out there and filling. Like, this could be a really good opportunity to kind of get back to the guy that he was. So sometimes football just happens like that. Like, in the blink of an eye, you become important. And because of that, I think that it's like, hey, like, it could have been a good wake-up call for him the first couple of weeks, considering where it looked like he fell in the depth chart.
All right, Dodger alert, people. You know that Doug and I like to talk about the Dodgers every once in a while. I see your shirt. Yeah, don't cover it up. I see what you're doing there. Ben Rortvet, right? Rortvet. I'm still working on
Rottweiler. That's what we're calling my show.
Yeah, look, stay ready. You have no idea when it's going to be your turn to play. You have no idea when it's going to be your turn to step in and not just play, but maybe make a real impact. And that's what Darius Williams has in front of him. Just like, Ben Rortvet is buried in the Dodgers system. There's no chance he's ever going to be a regular part of what they're doing. And don't look now, but he's a regular part of what they're doing, and he's stayed ready, and he's been really good. I know that Williams is not a journeyman like that Williams has been a really good player in this league for a while, but stay ready, be ready, because you never know what's coming. And Darius Williams, he had a nice pass defense on a play yesterday. We saw that. So he certainly was ready in the moment yesterday. And now he's got a chance to get that starting role back. And who knows what happens after that? It could be one of the better seasons of his career if he can take advantage of it. And again, this goes back to the culture that the Rams have created, the culture that Sean McVay has created. Stay ready, be ready, because you never know when your chance is going to come. And if you're not, they will move on. They're not just going to, we're doing this. Like we've said before, they play players, not paychecks. And if they need to move on to a guy, they will.
Yeah, no, I've actually put in a thing for a trademark for that. So I hope you didn't sleep on that, because I'm going to get paid based on T-shirts from that. But I think another parallel, too, with the Dodgers and the Rams, too, is something like a Darius Williams, a Ben Rortvet, whether it's a league minimum guy, a guy they paid $8-9 million to. There's no one random in their organizations. Like, they don't just like, we have 3 more spots to fill up on the roster. We have to do that, right? Let's find this random guy. Every single person has been scouted, and there's been thousands of hours of meetings and tape that's been studied on that guy. You're all there to help that team win. And Williams is the guy that they thought actually was going to perform better than he has. So I think that if they can get what they hope for with him, it could really turn out to be the best. Then when Ahkello comes back, they're even in a better spot. So, yeah, it's certainly going to be something we're going to monitor next week, especially going into a game where A.J. Brown hasn't gotten the love that he thinks he should have, right? And you got Javonte.
Time for a new library book. Let's see what he
book, right? I know. Go to the self-help section, right? Yeah, I mean, exactly. So coming up next, though, we're going to talk about Kyren and Blake Corum. Very, very interesting topic, because Blake Corum looks like he might deserve some more snaps. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
This episode of Locked On Rams is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all turn to some funny places for advice, right? You're a barista, your barber, maybe even some random stranger that you bump into in an elevator or a bathroom or something. But not everyone is the right one when it comes to real support. That's why BetterHelp is here. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 10 years of experience, BetterHelp helps you find the right match, someone clinically trained and credentialed to guide you through life's challenges, right? And one of the things that I think is so fantastic is that you start with a simple questionnaire, and BetterHelp does the matching work for you. And if it's not a right fit, and that can happen sometimes, you can switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. And it's also flexible. You can join sessions online from your home or on the go, which makes therapy fit into your very busy schedule. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. And our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And Rams fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the Google Store or the Apple Store and you can start earning cash at the pump today. Use the limited time promo code touchdown and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, sounds a little too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, e-gift card, Amazon, and other brands. So don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using the limited time promo code touchdown for a limited time 25% gallon bonus. That's promo code touchdown. Offer varies by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, Travis, here in our third segment, we're going to talk some Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. So when Blake Corum entered the game yesterday, he ran off a couple what are considered to be explosive runs, 15 yards or more. Up until then, the Rams running backs hadn't produced an explosive run through the first 7 quarters of the season. And he toed the rock 5 times for 44 yards. Still not a lot. Kyren, 17 carries for 66 yards, 3.9 average. But still, I do think that Sean McVay, after he looks at the tape, he's got to say to himself, hey, Blake Corum is too good to not use.
Let me ask you a question. And this is anecdotal, but it sure felt like it to me. When Corum came back out of the game and Williams came back in towards the end, did it look to you like Kyren Williams had a little extra something in the tank? Like he was running a little bit harder, that he was hitting that hole with a little bit more speed, a little bit more purpose? Because it sure looked like that to me. And this is why I think Corum has to play more. I think it makes Williams better. I think you have 2 good backs. I think they're really similar. Maybe Corum has a little more explosivity, but play him more. Have 2 guys that go in there and do this as opposed to 1. I get it. Kyren Williams is really good. I know they love him in pass protection. I know that that's one of the things that they feel really good about with him, and with an aging quarterback, that's certainly important. But Corum looked really legit yesterday. He didn't get the ball a ton, but when he did, he made a big impact. I'd like to see him play more. I think it really pushed it. Like last year, Kyren, when he had the fumbles and they put Corum in there, it felt like Corum was going to get a real shot, and then Corum got hurt, and then Williams kind of took off from that point. I think Williams is one of those guys that responds really well to a challenge, responds really well to being pushed, and I'd like to see Corum get the ball significantly more.
Absolutely. And it's not just anecdotal. The eye test matched the actual production. In the first half, Kyren was averaging 2.6 yards per carry. He had 7 carries on 18 yards, and he was at 2.9 yards per carry for the first 3 quarters. So absolutely, it felt like he went out there, and look, it's later in the game. Guys wear down, right? There's other factors like there always is. Sure. But we've seen this with Kyren. This is not the first time that we've seen him lose some snaps, the other guy have some success, and him come in and perform a little better. But here's the thing. Even with the increased effort, and as you point out, I mean, the touchdown to Devontae Adams, right? I mean, he had a really nice block, gave Stafford extra second, wasn't even really able to step into that throw, but because that block was able to give him the football. He's a better blocker than Blake Corum for sure, but even the increased effort of Kyren Williams, he just doesn't have that innate burst that Blake Corum has. And I'm not afraid to say that. Like, I love Kyren Williams. I think he's great in his role, but like, you can go out there and give it your all, and it doesn't matter if Blake Corum is going to have a better burst. And look, there's still a role for Kyren. I still think he'll get the lion's share of the carries. He understands how to run deal. He understands how to get these chunk 7, 8, 10 yards, and he knows just kind of how to make things happen within their scheme. There's some of the fumbles that have kind of, okay, hopefully that doesn't happen again, right? It's not really a big concern for me, but the door could be opened if he does not perform at his very best.
This isn't quarterbacks where you can only play one guy, right? You can play multiple guys at that position. And I don't understand why having two guys that are good at it isn't better than having one guy that's good at it. If you had Saquon Barkley, then sure, give Saquon Barkley 25 carries and see what happens. You don't take Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry off the field. Fine, but that's not Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams is a good back, but he's not that. And if you've got another guy that is nearly that and is nearly what Williams is, you can keep both guys fresher. And look, well, like we just talked about with Ahkello Witherspoon, injuries happen. You never know what's going to get, waiting for you around the corner. Having a guy with a little bit more experience in Corum might be beneficial at some point in the season. I'm not saying that you make it even, but I think you make it closer to even than we saw yesterday, because Corum brings an element to this team that was really fun to see yesterday. That's why Sean McVay gave him that game ball, his first touchdown in the NFL. It was a good game for number 22.
They absolutely love Kyren Williams. Like Sean McVay, I remember when we were talking about Cam Akers and the reporters would ask him 50 questions about Cam Akers, and Sean McVay, every time he was asked about Cam Akers, it felt like he would bring up Kyren Williams. Like they have been in lockstep for a long time. It does, though, feel like it could turn into that meme. Have you ever seen that meme where it's the dude walking down the street and he's holding hands with his girl, but he's looking back and he sees like the other girl? Like that could be McVay, Kyren. He's looking back and Blake Corum's right there. Because like you said, I mean, you can play two running backs. Yep. It's not like they're quarterbacks and he's gone for sure. But I will say, like, if Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington were better than Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, they'd be playing more, right? That's not the case. They never will be. But with Blake Corum, you take a victory lap on Tutu?
I was just wondering how he did yesterday. How many touchdowns? How many catches? Like, just it's almost like he's not very good. It's just weird.
You want to call him Tutu ain't well. I can see it in your face. I mean, come on. Hey,
dude, what are we doing? Put Whittington out there. Put Xavier Smith out there. Put anybody. I mean, what? 5 years and we're still.
Did you see Jordan Whittington, what he wore to the game?
No.
Dude, he wore a Matthew Stafford number 9 Rams jersey. Like, talk about like buttering up to your QB, bro. Like, come on. Like, I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, man. Like, he does look better in physical, but we'll see. Like I said, this team's in a good spot. This is a champagne problem. This is a good debate to have if you're the Rams. And it does look like, I don't know, like I have pretty much all the houses on Blake Corum Island already. Like, I might have a condo for you if you want to buy some stock, but like I said, I got no feelings unless you're Todd Gurley, right? Unless you're one of these Rams greats like Steven Jackson or Eric Dickerson. Like, I got no feelings as far as kind of giving other guys some run for sure.
Not when he plays like that. You know what I mean? Like when he plays like that, for sure he deserves more carries. And Philadelphia is going to be rough and tumble. It's going to be a physical game. I think you're going to want to have both of these guys available to you. And I know we're getting closer to starting to work on the Philadelphia game. That one can't get here fast enough. That Philly looked really good in Kansas City again yesterday. The Rams are the one team that kind of tested them in the postseason last year. I cannot wait for next Sunday.
And we will talk about that tomorrow. It's going to be an exciting week. And tomorrow we'll find out what the numbers. What did PFF say about Blake Corum and Kyren Williams? We got winners and losers tomorrow. Game balls. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.